is lifestyle change climate action? So in response to the question, I would like to argue that yes, it is. By lifestyle change, we mean sustainable action in our personal lives, how we live each day. And the ones in particular that I'm talking about today are investing in reusable products, recycling, reselling items that are no longer used or needed. So there are many of us here today who do make these efforts and then wonder about how fruitful they are. People think, I'm doing all these actions, what are others doing? Are the damaging effects of others negating the good that I'm doing? And if the UK makes progress but another country doesn't even have the infrastructure to recycle, what's the point? And why should I deprive myself of meat and become vegetarian or vegan when animals will still die for this reason? So this is culminating in a big question, why bother? And the purpose of my talk today is to tell you, yes, do bother, and to give you reasons to feel enlivened, encouraged and happy about what you're doing. So we could also call this reasons for environmentalists to be cheerful, which isn't a usual sentence you'll hear. So reason one, doing more with less creates a culture of resourcefulness, and this prepares us for climate breakdown. This is definitely climate action. So if you're already making sure you reduce, reuse and recycle as much as you possibly can, then you're already nurturing this very useful life skill, and one that's very much drawn upon in stressful situations. I first observed the wonderful habit of resourcefulness in my grandmother. I come from a low-income farming background, and farming lends itself very easily and beautifully to the idea of resourcefulness, as there's generally no showiness, pretense or image to it, if you will. You make do with what you've got and use things until they're completely broken and impossible to mend. Also indoors, my grandma was a great one for reusing packaging and never really throwing anything away. And these days, frequently, my dad is heard loudly objecting to this throwaway society. I realised I had absorbed my family's habits when I got to university and started filling cupboards in our student digs with empty jars and butter tubs, much to my flatmates' amusement and annoyance. I was less good at finding a use for them than my grandma, though, as I hadn't built up a household yet. Now, as a mother, many of these things can easily become pantry storage jars, containers for freezing baby food, and rattles for our baby son. So mending and making do was of course a cultural habit of my grandma's post-war generation, but I doubt it was a habit that was greatly resented due to the satisfaction that can be achieved when finding another use for an object or lengthening the life of something by fixing it. Indeed, it's true that people who've lived through periods of economic deprivation can develop lifelong habits of frugality and are less likely to engage in wasteful consumption. And wasteful consumption, like impulse buying things on the internet, lead to a feeling similar to the one you might get from watching too much television or spending too much time surfing the web, a feeling of emptiness, a vacuous way to spend your time. I'm sure you can all relate to that. On the contrary, a feeling of frugality, of waste avoided, of money saved, of time used wisely, tends to bring with it contentment, pride and satisfaction. In becoming more resourceful, one can also become more resilient and responsible. Other feelings that bring one much satisfaction and also bring security and reassurance to those around you. In turn, this resourcefulness and preparedness for an uncertain future decreases the occurrence of uncomfortable feelings like vulnerability, confusion and fear. However, of course, we need to be careful not to stray into becoming over-controlling over our environment or disappear down the rabbit hole of obsessiveness and compulsion. Hypersensitivity to waste could create something called eco-anxiety, which can cause a lot of stress. I read an article and shared it with my green Cambridge parent friends. We have a WhatsApp group of the same name, and the writer was talking about how to make packed lunches plastic-free, and she wrote that she dropped the tiny plastic seal into the bin with a heavy heart. This resonated with one of the parents who said she is struggling with this heaviness, living her life surrounded by items that are not recyclable. So we took to reassuring each other and talked about perseverance, not perfection, and the planet does not need one person to do zero waste perfectly, it needs billions to do it imperfectly. And lastly, that's good enough for today. So yes, we have to be careful that we don't swap the unachievable, unrealistic and downright depression-causing aims of a status-driven capitalist society for the equally damning perfectionist possibilities of an environmentally focused one. That was a hard sentence to say. And we, and we also want to avoid the wartime meme of keep calm and carry on, which brings with it a kind of repressiveness and a sense of control, not to mention a strident patriotism. It might be better to frame our beloved resourcefulness as flexibility, adaptability, and elasticity. So reason 2, secondly, making changes to your lifestyle influences how others around you make decisions. They start to make decisions that are beneficial for the planet. Since becoming a local candidate for the Green Party, some changes have occurred amongst my family and friends. My mum now votes Green. She used to vote Conservative, and she is now a member of the Green Party and praises the actions of Extinction Rebellion. She's almost about to join it, so it's sort of a big step for her. My cousin and sister now vote Green, who in the past didn't used to vote at all. And my dad voted Green for the first time in the European elections. So my family belonged to that group of people in the recent Green wave, which meant that the Green Party did really well in the European elections. Also, something funny happens when people realise you're running for a local position representing the Green Party. They suddenly start telling you about their own recycling and start brandishing reusable coffee cups and talking about how they're reducing their plastic waste. However, this feeling is dissipating quite a bit in recent times when people are waking up to the climate in these times. They are listening, they are interested, they want to know what they can do. There is less danger of sounding like an old windbag. Thanks to the millennials, being eco-friendly is now incredibly fashionable, and you would be seen as inept if you weren't joining in. So now I would like to say something about how making lifestyle changes is making us happier. So what keeps us happy and healthy as we go through life? I watched a very compelling TED Talk delivered in 2015 by psychiatrist Robert Waldinger, who directed a 75-year-old study on adult development and true happiness and satisfaction. This famous longitudinal study found that the greatest happiness in subjects' lives was not caused by money or fame or hard work, it was good relationships. The conclusion of this study was good relationships keep us happier and healthier. And lifestyle changes in response to climate change are bringing us together. Speaking personally, like many others, I use WhatsApp on a daily basis for keeping in touch with my various troops, if you will. There is one group for my family, one for close friends, and then I also belong to some of the parenting-related groups as Can Baby Buy and Sell, Homemade Buy and Sell, and Cambridge Bean Parents, which I've just told you about. On Can Baby Buy and Sell, over 250 Cambridge families sell or donate their used and sometimes brand new baby items, meaning these items go to a second home or sometimes third, fourth or fifth home. So far in my short parenting life, I've found bodysuits for Leo, some decent t-shirts, a pram cover, wooden puzzles, wellies and a brand new toothbrush, all within strollable distance. The puzzles, wellies and toothbrush were advertised by someone on my street, which meant I got to know neighbours I hadn't met before. When I picked up the pram cover, I got chatting to a fellow mum who gave me nursery recommendations. So over on Homemade Buy and Sell, I have had the option of picking up tomato plants on Poldham's Lane and buying homemade baby sun hats from someone off Mill Road, which avoids the need for buying online or investing in any fast fashion. And there's also a group called Weaning and Recipes, so you can spend all day on doing WhatsApp, where other mothers post ideas for easy, fresh baby meals, avoiding resorting to food sold in pouches or jars. And if I want to get rid of non-baby items, which I'm sure some of you want to hear about, the fastest and most effective way is definitely by using a free app called Olio. Have you heard of it? It's amazing. It's the most effective way of sharing stuff I've ever come across. I had an oversupply of eggs when our family had tummy bugs and we didn't really want to eat eggs. And within half an hour of posting 10 free-range eggs up for grabs, I had 5 replies and the eggs were quickly picked up by the winner, an international student. Last week I posted about 10 different packs of various vitamins and minerals that I haven't been able to use up due to pregnancy and breastfeeding. The majority were out of date, but I had 4 people take different ones, and again they were all distributed by 7 p.m. that evening. And it was great chatting to and meeting these people on my doorstep. So lifestyle changes such as using apps to share the things we don't use or need encourages us to connect with others who have shared values. Although I haven't had the spare time and energy to join XR myself, I'm sure Extinction Rebellion is a good example of a strong community too, as there is a clear end goal here. Making lifestyle changes which are better for the planet contributes to a meaningful and honourable life, and who doesn't want that? These actions are not just contributing to individual happiness, but also collective happiness. And this is not akin to ravings by an evangelical religion telling us the end is nigh. These predictions are based on factual evidence from climate scientists. So to sum up, definitely do keep bothering with all the lifestyle changes you're making the effort with, and do it with flair. Don't hold back when proffering your reusable cup in a busy cafe. Do it proudly, do it with a smile. It's for a great reason. Smile at others while you're doing it. Spread the joy. Others will follow. Most of all, do all these little things because it's the right thing to do. Living in line with your principles will always bring more contentment and happiness in your life. And because these sustainable behaviours are preparing you better for an uncertain future, and because they can bring you closer together with others, building stronger communities to cope with what's ahead, I conclude that they can definitely also be considered climate action. Thank you.